Danielle Tilley says, do you have a Bill Murray story? I've heard so many fun Bill Murray stories, so I'm hoping you have one too. I do have a Bill Murray story, and it's pretty good. I met Bill Murray the first time in 1986, I think. So I ended up meeting Bill Murray three or four times on the periphery. He lived for a while in a small enclave on the west side of the Hudson River called Sneeden's Landing, which is where my mom grew up and where my grandmother lived. And so every year in Stevens, there was for many years the famous Norman's Christmas party, and I met Bill and his brother a couple times at the Norman's Christmas party, but that was like 86, 87. But in 86, my dad had some dealings with Bill for a thing. I can't even remember what it was. Oh, right. It was yeah, sure. I can talk about this. It's the Century Association, which is a club in New York. And my father was a member, and it's a club of artists and movers and shakers. And I mean, classic New York club kind of thing. They didn't let women in until I think the 80s. And the first one was Jackie Onassis, like that kind of club, right? But in order to become a member, you got sponsored by other members, and they wrote letters to recommend you. And my dad was introduced to Bill Murray by a mutual friend who said, I think Lee Savage, my dad, would write you a letter. And my dad did. And then Bill became a member of the Century Club. And as such, new members often have an evening, or they I don't know what the tradition is, but Bill hosted a reading at the Century Club for about 40 people, 50 people. He read a short story, and he read a poem. Was the poem by Browning? I feel like it was. I can't remember who wrote the short story, but it was a short story about a dad getting in a fight in front of his kid. And realize, Ghostbusters came out in 84. This is 1986. Bill Murray is still he's one of the biggest movie stars in the world. So I'm 19, and I cannot believe that my dad somehow knows Bill Murray, even peripherally. And when I go to the Century Club and I see this reading and I see him reading, my mind is completely blown. After the reading, they set up a buffet and everyone lines up, and I can't see anybody in the room but Bill Murray, right? This is what happens when you see someone that famous. Your brain stops being able to concentrate on anything else. Now, having had a little bit of an intersection with fame myself, I know that Bill could tell who in the room was most sort of by his presence. And he was incredibly generous. So as I came up, I was behind him in line to get some food. He was very sweet and like, hey, how you doing? Shook my hand. And then I introduced him to my mom, and he reached out to my mom and he went, oh, you got a spot on your shirt. And she looked down and he did the nose thing too. And it was like, again, I submit, this is an incredibly generous thing to do. It's not incredibly creative, but I'm not criticizing it for that. It's a great thing to do because it's such a funny, sweet, weird, familiar thing to do to someone you don't know. And 19-year-old me was just like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. What is just lovely. It was just delightful and lovely. That's my Bill Murray story. I didn't expect to tell that. Yeah, those were the last times I saw Bill. Let's see. Which Ghostbusters film is my favorite? My favorite is GB1. My favorite is GB1. It's an unqualified masterpiece. My new favorite might be Afterlife. but I have not seen it yet. I know a lot about how it plays out, and I've seen some of it, but I cannot wait to see the whole thing. I really cannot wait because I'm really excited by what it could be. But GB1, dude, it's the film. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? How old was I when I first saw Ghostbusters? Well, it's 84, so I was 17. Oh, okay. You're literally watching me read. I'm just so sorry. I should have done a little more work here. Okay, so I sort of answered this, but Mark Abb, 1975, says, with your skills in model making, effects, props, etc., are you able just to sit down and enjoy a movie like Ghostbusters, or are you always looking at what the people who worked on the film have done? I said, I don't have a problem in a good film of suspending my disbelief and just following the action. But he also adds, maybe getting inspiration or thinking about how you might have done something differently. Yeah, I'm always looking to be inspired by objects. So certainly, even when I watch a movie that I've seen 100 times, I might be asking myself a question as characters in the movie handle and work with objects in the movie. I might say, oh, would I be happier if I had one of those? would that experience do something interesting? Maybe I want an alethiometer. Man, do I want an alethiometer. Sometimes the inspiration comes fast. Sometimes it comes after years of watching a movie. I've been working slowly for years on replicating an edition of Major Kong's Survival Pack from Dr. Strangelove. And when I first walked into the Stanley Kubrick exhibit down at LACMA a few years ago, I did not expect that prop to capture me. I've watched that film 20 times in my life, twice on the big screen. It's an amazing movie. Oh my God, you should watch it right now. We should all watch Dr. Strangelove right now that I realize, because it's one of the funniest movies ever made. And when you're done watching it, you're like, because what it has to say about humanity is not pretty and borne out by recent events. Somebody pointed out recently that any documentary, like 10 years from now, there'll be a documentary and about this time, about COVID. And it will begin with an anecdote about the release of the television series Chernobyl, and that there'll be all of these hot takes from people going, Chernobyl's great, but come on, humanity would never respond to a big disaster so ridiculously like that, right? There's no government in the world that would be so irresponsible with their response. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching that video. Your viewership keeps the lights on here at Tested, and we are grateful. If you'd like to support us further, well, by all means, follow some of the links below to our merch store, where we've got some Christmas specials going on. A limited edition Tested rickshaw ornament. We've only got a couple hundred of these, and when they're gone, we're never making any more. We also have the Tested logo ornament. Both of these change colors sitting on your tree. And if you do get them and you do hang them on your tree, why, we'd love to see pictures. Nothing pleases us more than seeing our merch out in the real world. Happy Christmas, happy holidays, and see you in the new year.